So here's a quick overview of my 2026 Poor Boys RC Speedrun Challenge car. So this is the ORV Frog chassis, and I'm running the Frog body. Pretty much stock body, no wing of course. Trimmed slightly on the front, but otherwise pretty much stock body on that. And obviously I'm running 3 wheels, and I'm running 3 front wheels, which so far seems to work fine. And I tried to use as much Frog as I could. I don't really have a lot of custom stuff on here other than bracketry to hold things. So I took the original Frog suspension that was obviously on the sides, and I rotated around to the front. And so now they function as a single suspension in the front. And then we got the one wheel steering on a little linkage there, which I can kind of show how that works. Basically not very much steering, but more than enough for what this thing's going to do. And so that works quite well actually. And this is just basically steel piano wire, a little bracket I made up. That's the main custom thing on the front end of this. I have an intermediate link there because trying to get the push rod to go nicely into the body was not working out well, so I ended up with an intermediate shaft. And then around the back end I have the shocks that would have been on the side. I relocated them to the back, partly to get them out of the airflow, and then there's one other reason which I'll get to in a moment. So that's just, those are stock Frog shocks, and actually those are originals, not re-released, so those are 40 plus years old. And then some lighter weight springs because of the different ratio on the suspension. The original springs were way too stiff. So let's look inside this thing. I just have a clip down in the front there that the body slides into, so it stops the air getting underneath it. So that's my little GPS device, which I think everyone's familiar with these. I just put mine on basically just a piece of plastic with a hole, matched the original mount, and that snaps back in there. And then I can just take that on and off quick and easy. And I left the roof open so I can actually view that. So for test runs, I don't have to pull the body off to see how I did. So I'm running fairly old style electronics. I decided to sort of go more in keeping with the vintage theme of the Frog. So I'm trying to use fairly period stuff. So I've got a 90s Novak Racer speed control there, which is nice having the current settings because you can prevent wheel spin on startup. Using a modern receiver, of course. Got a 90s helicopter gyro, and then high-tech Metal Gear servo there. Nothing too special on any of that, but it works well. And then the motor, for now at least, I'm going to run brushed, and I don't know if I will actually run a brushless because I don't have a brushless setup. So whether I want to buy one for this or not, I don't know. But this is I don't even actually know what that motor is. It's a mild modified from the 90s. It's a mystery motor because I took the label off it back then. I have no idea what it is. I took the armature out and it looks like a 14 turn double. So that's what I'm using for my initial tests. And the unusual thing about what I did with it, so in order to get the ratio that I need to run at speed, especially on small wheels, the stock ratio is way too high, because it's made for off-road. So what I did, instead of moving the motor up and putting a bigger pinion, I've moved it down, and I am meshing against the 18 tooth part of the intermediate gear instead of the 49 tooth. So I just It's like an experiment here. So instead of that, which gives you the gear reduction, I'm doing that, so motor out and down a bit. So now the intermediate gear is just basically an idler. So essentially, from a gear ratio point of view, I'm going straight from the pinion to the main differential gear. So that gets me from like a 6 or 7 to 1 ratio that it would be stock, and that's moving me down to about a 2.7 ratio, I think, something like that. My initial trials, I'm running a 13 and a 14 tooth pinion so far. That seems to be working pretty well. I'm sure I can go up higher, and I will do later in the month. The rear diff is an original gear diff, because most of what I've got here was based on a vintage Frog that I had. I have bought re-release parts for the bits that I modified because I didn't want to cut up my original, but the gear train, that's all 40 plus year old gears, and I don't have any brace on the side plates. I shim the bearings so that they're holding the diff side gears snugly, and I don't have any issue with skipping. This shock bracket isn't actually clamping. It kind of looks like it is, but it isn't. It's on spacers, so there's actually a gap between the bracket and the side plates. So the other reason the shocks ended up on the back is when I moved that motor down, the space where the normal linkage would be for the shocks, obviously it just doesn't fit, so those got chopped off. So that cleans up those rear pieces. Shocks go to the back, the motor drops down, and it all fits nice and cleanly. And for looks and maybe some aerodynamic benefit too, I removed all of the extra protrusions on the frame, so that there's 2 there. There was 2 for the switch. I think, there was 2 up there that I removed just so I could get this in here nicely, so it doesn't run into it. So I just cleaned up the frame that way. Other than that, there's no change to the chassis. At the front here, I've got bracket to hold the stock suspension parts. That's the only real change up there. I didn't put the original springs in because they don't really work that well anyway. What I did, it's a little hard to see, but I basically just put a piece of latex tubing in there, one on each side, and so then the little, I don't know what you call that, push rod thing under there, that just kind of squishes the rubber. I don't know if you can see it. Gives a bit of damping, gives a good spring rate for what we're doing, and it works fine. So I have the metal tray in there that is holding the radio, but that also supports the battery, which comes in from underneath. Turn this thing off. So I have just a single 1/4 turn fastener there that releases that. And then you can see the 2 hooks in the back. And that pops out, so that's just a little custom aluminum under tray that I made. Partly for aerodynamics and partly to hold the battery in place. And then so that's my battery, fits nice and snug between the... Right now this is a 2S battery. I don't know if I'll run a 3S or not. It would have to be the same size or smaller because there's no extra space there. It's pretty well right up against the bracket in the back and right up against the servo in the front, so it was made to fit. So obviously original battery door is gone, and then the cross brace there had to go too. Otherwise fairly standard Frog, except it's 3 wheels instead of 4. I think that is pretty much it for the discussion of this machine. So, hope you liked it. That's it.